And I guess I want it to be like not necessarily libertarian art, but just
Right.
libertarians who make art.
You are listening to And If Love Remains, a unique show spotlighting people, ideas, science, culture, and art. Your host, Mike Lovett.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to that great podcast in the sky, And If Love Remains. This is Mike Levitt, your sometimes virtuous, occasionally vile, always virile host. And with your help, we will go viral by doing, that thing that you do, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. So welcome. I'm very excited to have on today Jaron Weidner. And Jaron started a Facebook group that I became aware of called Libertarians Who Make Art, which is a fantastic little group for us artists. And sometimes us artists that believe in liberty feel a little we'll say a little outside the group. And but let's get Jaron on. Welcome to the show, man. Happy to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Well, I want to start first. Before we get into, I want to talk about a little bit about your history with music and art, and also about your history with political philosophy and how you came to libertarianism. Were you? I guess that's a good question. Which came first, the musician or the philosopher?
Yeah. The musician came first.
Okay.
So I grew up, like in high school, I listened to a lot of the kind of Christian punk music from like
Yeah.
the 90s and early 2000s. So
Right.
that was kind of what I grew up in. And I ended up going to a really small music college and studied music business. So I've kind of always been surrounded by musicians and creative people like that. So
Oh, that's cool. And
yeah,
what do you play? What do you when you make music? What's your music of choice? What do you like to play? What do you like to do?
yeah. So I have one project that I've been doing for a little bit over a decade now, kind of off and on, kind of a electronic music thing. Um,
Okay.
I call it synth punk because it's kind of the energy of like a pop punk band, but with synthesizers, like synths instead of
Right.
guitars. So it's kind of a fun, quirky type of uh, music. And
That's
then
cool.
I also it was last year released a couple songs under my own name as Jaron Weidner, and those are kind of more straightforward, kind of indie punk rock type of what you would normally think of.
Right. So do you prefer to play like keys or guitar, or what do you like to do?
Um, a little of both. I'm not the best
Okay.
keyboard player, so I kind of will come up with little, synth lines that sound cool, and then go in and edit everything on the computer.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'm probably most natural on bass guitar.
Okay. Right on. Big fan of the bass, all the great musicians were bass players, Paul McCartney, Geddy Lee, I mean, John Paul Jones. I mean, the best ones are all bass players.
Yeah.
um, what about, talk to me a little bit about this synth punk project. That interests me a little bit. That sounds fun. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the name is called 100 Year Dash, and um, I guess it started out. I took a class at my college on electronic music, and so I was kind of a little bit inspired by that. And then I was also watching a lot of like uh, science documentaries, like even just like really cheesy
Yeah.
science documentaries, and um, I kind of combined that and started writing a bunch of lyrics that had like science themes and analogies, and it just fit with the sort of quirky electronic music that I was making. And then a couple of friends in college were like, "Hey, we should, start this as a band and actually perform these songs. I had like a drummer and a bass player and everything, so it was a good time.
Oh, that's cool. And so do you guys still work together, or has it become more of a solo project now?
It's definitely more of a solo project now. We've kind of moved off to different states and stuff
Sure.
like that. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still making the music.
And okay, so for audience members, I'm sorry, I'm going to geek out here a little bit. So I'm curious, like, what are your sense of choice? What's your DAW choice? Come on, man, we got to get geeky here for a second. What do you like to work on?
Um, so as far as like hardware, I don't really have like any synthesizers besides just like MIDI keyboards. So I pretty much just do everything on on the DAW. Um,
Right,
started
like
out
VST instruments and stuff, and
yeah um, started out using Reason, and now I've been using Logic. So
okay. I'm a big Reason user as well.
okay,
I use Reaper now, but usually I'm putting Reason into Reaper or something like
okay,
that. But
nice.
that's cool. What yeah, and do you like use Vital, or what kind of synths do you like to use?
Um, just some of the ones that are on there. Just the
Yeah.
I'll go through different presets and then find one that's like somewhat close to the sound I'm looking for, and go in and adjust everything to get it to where I want it to be. So I kind of just go through and find the right sounds.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I do a lot of that same thing. Especially like in Reason, they have a lot of really great presets. So I like to like mess around in Europa or Thor or something, and
Hmm.
just kind of, those are some pretty powerful synths. And there's a lot, like it's amazing. I'm always shocked about the quality of synths that you can get for free on your computer.
Yeah,
Whether that's stock with the DAW, whether it's Logic, Reaper doesn't have anything, but Reason has tons of stuff.
yeah,
um or even just free VSTs, that tools that people put out that you're just like, whoa, how is this thing free?
yeah.
Like Vital, like I don't know if you've ever messed with Vital.
Uh-uh.
um it's like oh, what's that, really, dang, I can't remember the name. There's like a really popular synth that a lot of people use. It starts with an S, I think. Anyway, it's very popular. Lots of people use it. It's like $300, and Vital is like basically a clone of it for free, and it's
Oh wow.
amazing. It is so good. Like you have, I don't know, I think you have 3 oscillators and a bunch of filters, and it's all like you can mess with it, and I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun to mess with. So
Nice.
I'd recommend Vital. Download
Okay.
it. um, well, that's cool. Well, we'll put some links to your music in the in the description, and in the show notes. And then in this like you said, you more kind of traditional kind of punk thing. That's a late
Yeah.
thing that you just did last year, you said?
Yeah, that was a more recent thing. It's just a couple songs under my own name.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and that's kind of just going back a little bit to my roots of kind of the indie and
Yeah.
punk rock music.
What inspired you? Like, what inspires you to write something? Did something just like, does it come to you, or do you just um
Um, I think on a certain level, I need to create something,
yeah.
and so like there was a time when I didn't have like the equipment to record any of my music and stuff like that, so I didn't write a lot of music, but I ended up like writing short stories and stuff like that, and so it's like I kind of needed some sort of creative outlet.
Right.
So yeah, I went to writing short stories when it wasn't music, but now I can do music again. So
Right on, man. No, that's cool. And I do love that. Like there was a time, um, like I think about it, on our podcast, we do I do a lot of like historical musical stuff. I have a really fine um concert pianist that comes on quite a bit with me, Elias, and we talk, a lot of classical music, but it's fun to think about like music from a historical standpoint. And for me, like one of the things I think about is like back in the day, before there was radio, before there were records, Like, if you wanted to hear something, you either had to go to the concert itself, or you had to learn basically how to play the piano,
Yeah.
and then learn how to read music, and then you could play. If you wanted to hear Beethoven's, Ode to Joy or something, you had to play it on the piano so people could kind of get an idea of what it was
Yeah.
like. And then recordings came, and records, and that art of like needing to learn how to play for the sake of like understanding it completely went away, because
Mm.
now we can just go on YouTube and hear the best of the best, um, play at any time. But what's different now, and what changed, I think, in the last 20 or 30 years, is that technology's gotten to the point where it's cheap enough that instead of like trying to recreate other people's music, it's cheap enough for us to make our own. And so
Yeah.
you see a lot more like project studios, and a lot more people getting interested in the art of making music and making their own music, and instead of trying to, oh, what did, what did Sting play? Which I think that's cool too.
Mhm.
I play in cover bands. I love learning exactly what it's like on the radio and stuff. But there's something unique about this time where a lot of people are like, no, I want to do my own thing.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
um, so let's talk a little bit about how you got interested in politics, philosophy, and freedom. How did that all happen?
Yeah, so that was kind of a process. Um, After I graduated college, me and a couple of friends opened a coffee shop here in Memphis,
Okay.
and um, it was just sort of a culmination of things of like learning about all the red tape involved with opening a business and taxes and all that stuff. And then one of our regular customers was running for city council and was having a lot of his meetings there, and I got to know him pretty well. Um, and I guess, well, that was the coffee shop opened in 2014. So, halfway through 2015, we were in the height of like presidential debates for
Right.
the 2016 election. And that was kind of a wild election year. And
It certainly was. Yeah.
at that time, I honestly, like, before then had no interest in politics at all, didn't know which way I leaned. And so I kind of started to do some research in 2015 and quickly realized that I was neither Republican or Democrat. It
Yeah.
didn't take very long to figure out I was not one of those. Um, and kind of went down the rabbit trail and discovered the Libertarian Party. And before I knew it, a few months later, I was at my state convention for the Libertarian Party of Tennessee. And
Wow.
just, I barely knew anything about it, but I went and I met a bunch of awesome people and um, read a bunch of books and kind of like got
Yeah.
full on from there.
That's interesting. It's funny, because even to this day, like I'm not a registered libertarian. I mean, but I definitely am a fellow traveler,
Yeah,
in that world, and I think it is fascinating, like how much, because it's such a smallish party, that you can actually get involved pretty quickly, and quickly like do some things and actually feel like you're making a difference,
yeah,
where you know I mean, the same is sort of true like in the big parties, but not as much. I mean you're not like immediately yeah, you're not immediately thrown into state conventions,
yeah.
and things like that. Um but when where you needed, you wanted it. So what books influenced you? What were the things that really influenced you, and got you thinking?
Yeah, so um, I think it was, I'm just interested in economics.
Okay.
And maybe part of that was because me and my friends had opened our own business and I was trying to figure out things. I know one of the first conversations early on with opening the business was like talking about minimum wage laws and stuff like that. And before I knew I was a libertarian, I kept thinking about it. I'm just like, wait, how does that help people? Like, the more I
Right.
thought about minimum wage, I was like, it would end up hurting the people it's trying to help. And so yeah, I ended up reading like Hazlitt and Mises and Rothbard and Bastiat and stuff like that. So my
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's I mean, that's all good stuff. Um, this is just again curious because it's funny. Um, you start to learn like there's different there's like the Mises caucus and there's all
Mhm.
these other like realms in the libertarian world, and you don't have to say if you're not don't want to, but I'm curious if is there like I would probably actually consider myself closer to the like full like anarcho-capitalist, maybe, but
Yeah.
definitely the anarchist side of things. Um, the definitely the volunteerism,
Mhm.
side of things, the Keith Knight. I like a lot of the stuff that he says and stuff like that. But where would you find yourself kind of in that world of libertarianism? Because it's pretty broad.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a lot of different, you know, when you have this sort of the diagram of the four quadrants, and it's the entire bottom line of that,
Right.
from left to right, as long as you're anti-authoritarian.
Right.
Um, I
Which means you're a
definitely
friend of mine.
right. Um, I feel like because of studying so much of the economics, I would definitely be in that sort of world, of the voluntarists. Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go so far to say anarcho-capitalist, but um, I think my personal beliefs are probably much more extreme than what I present to the world, and
Oh,
how
that's interesting.
um, interacting with the Libertarian Party as a whole, or within like local politics with other people running for office locally and things like that. I'm much more of a pragmatist, kind of like suggesting, hey, how about this option? It's less infringing on people's rights.
Right.
But like
Right.
personally, in my own philosophy, I'm probably pretty hardcore, even if I don't say that
No,
openly.
well, no, and I think it's important to have that side of your brain going. I think it's important to be like, okay, it's that old adage that the perfect is the enemy of the good, and I think
Mm.
especially in the liberty movement, you can have that problem
Oh
quite a
yes.
bit, where hey, you're a communist if you believe in even if you believe in a mayor or something.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
So
definitely a lot of that sort of people as they're discovering their own philosophy, and they kind of pick apart everyone else's philosophy when it really is, there can be a lot of different differences as long as we're on that anti-authoritarian spectrum.
right, right. So okay, now this is where this is part of the thing that I love is a lot of times I don't think people would equate, and I think it's silly that they don't, because there's plenty of them out there, but people wouldn't equate libertarianism or the Libertarian Party. Sometimes I think we're thought of as just kind of like total nerds, total like quacks,
Mm,
and things like that. And they don't think of us as artists, and they don't think of the amazing creativity that is done, and part of it is frankly our fault.
mm,
When I say ours, those of us in the liberty movement, because well, we can talk about why, but I love what you've done. What inspired you to start this Facebook group, the Libertarians Who Make Art Facebook
yeah.
group?
Um, so, like I said, I had kind of the background of music business, plus being a musician myself, and then I was involved with my state Libertarian Party for a couple years, and after a while, I just life things happen. I was too busy to really be involved so much, and I also kind of um, wanted to find my own kind of way to do something. Um, something where I felt kind of where my skills and passions fit better than like working actively within like the political sphere. Um,
Right.
I guess I kind of felt like that wasn't really where I belonged, even if I agree philosophically. Um, so it kind of took a step back from the actual political party, um, and but I at the same time was also kind of noticing some different artists, different musicians, and things like that who were also libertarians, and it kind of just started making a list of like, okay, this person's got a rock band, this person does folk music, and kind of just started compiling a list. And yeah, I started the Facebook group initially just to see if there's enough interest in like generating some sort of dialogue and community. And so I started the Facebook, I started the Instagram and Twitter accounts, and just did sort of the social media thing. Started posting about some of the different people I had discovered who were um, doing some sort of art and also libertarians. And I guess I wanted to be like not necessarily libertarian art, but just
Right.
libertarians who make art. You know?
No, I appreciate that a lot. It's the same kind of philosophy that I feel about like even like with Christian music. Like I'd rather
Mhm.
hear somebody who's a Christian make great music than hear subpar Christian music.
Right.
You know?
And I definitely understand that because I said I grew up listening to kind of Christian punk music and stuff, and so
Right.
that was definitely in the back of my mind. There was that whole debate in the kind of in the '90s where like we're just Christians and we play in a band. We're not a Christian band, like that whole thing. Like,
Right, right.
and so that's kind of what sparks the name a little bit. Is like, no, we're just libertarians. We believe libertarian philosophy, but we also make this, write fiction or make films or whatever we do. Um,
And you do have some like, really great I mean, like I said, I barely discovered it. I did a quick look. It looks like you have over 400 members. Did I see that right?
yeah,
Um,
um,
and I mean, there's artists, there's art, authors,
mhm.
poets. I mean, all kinds of people that music, obviously musicians. It's a great resource, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really cool just to like kind of see this grow organically and all the different people that have joined. I launched the website, I guess, about a year and a half ago, and so I actually done some like interviews, just like written interviews on the website. So I've got about 2 dozen or so interviews on there. Um, I'm always trying to do more, and
Hmm.
I forget where I was going to go with that, but
Oh, no, that's okay.
yeah.
I wanted to also take a stab here, especially since you mentioned like punk music and things like that, and it 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 is so fascinating to me because I'm a little older than you, I think,
Mm,
and as I've grown and watched the music business and watched bands and it's um it's fascinating to me to see these guys who were quote so anti-authoritarian become the most authoritarian. I'm talking
mm,
about like the big bands, um, that come out and all of a sudden they're like for everything from lockdowns to
mm,
they're in favor of anything that an authority says. And it's like, wait a sec, you were against all of this stuff. Like,
yeah.
where's Spider-Man Hobie? Come on, man.
Mhm.
Like where where's that guy who was 20 years old and saying F the police and saying down with the man like that. Come on.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, oh, do whatever Fauci says or do whatever the police say or do whatever no matter what, just obey. It's like, wait a sec, that come on.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating to me. I was
Yeah.
wondering if you felt the same way.
Um, yeah, I think there's definitely that sort of like shift over time, and I mean, just overall, the entertainment industry is, so dominated by this certain set of beliefs and philosophy. Um, and I mean, it's not just left wing; it's right wing too. It's it's kind of one or the other, and you choose your side. And libertarians kind of we stand in a completely different
Right.
perspective than either Republican or Democrat. Um, and it's there's really very little of that in the entertainment industry as a whole.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like even we can even be real specific. My dad would talk about the great music that was made during the great anti-war music that was
Mm,
made during the Vietnam era, right? And it was amazing. There was some amazing music written. Like, where's the great anti-war music that we hear
right.
now when it comes to Ukraine? Like, where's that anti-war music? And it's nowhere to be found because I think they're in favor of the war. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know how else to interpret that, you know. Um,
I mean, it
but it's
could be that, it could be people just scared to say what they believe.
which is there probably is a lot of that, especially as you get more successful, you have a lot more to lose, you
Yeah.
know. So, um, talk about like your goals with the site and with the group. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish? Other than just I think it's important to gather and like
Mhm.
just be like, hey, kind of have a support group, if you will. But what else are you trying to accomplish with it?
Yeah. So the first goal is to just be like a community so that we can help each other. If somebody's looking for a publisher or something like that, or an editor, you can like refer people to other libertarians who do that type of work and kind of create this network of support. And also so that we can promote each other's projects and um, uh, just sort of, you know, start projects together. You can do events together and stuff like that. Um, I have been to my state convention this past year and actually set up like a table and had some merch out there and flyers for the website and stuff like that, and kind of just took that opportunity to spread more awareness of it and continue to grow. So that's one thing I'd like to do more of is um, be at different events, different liberty events. Um, I had a friend handing out flyers at the Pork Fest that happened recently.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
Good. That's great. Well, um, again, man, I hope it just blows up and continues to blow up. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air for me to find it
yeah,
because it's just like, oh, these are my peeps. I can share some of my music and share some of the stuff that I'm working on. And see what else is out there. I mean, and there are some amazing stuff that people are doing. So
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
Um, I really just want to help these artists who are libertarians and help them with their projects and help um, you know post on social media about whatever they're doing. Um, our Instagram has at the moment it's got over 800 followers and it keeps on growing.
Oh,
Um,
good.
so using that, um, you know, I think it's a cool thing. I'm just trying to, like I said, with my skills and experience from the past and what I'm passionate about, just trying to find these libertarians who make really cool things and try to tell as many people as possible, like,
Yeah.
hey, this person did this. So,
Well, I mean, great job. If people want to find out more, they want to, join, or they're interested in checking out what some of these artists are doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
so yeah, you can go to libertarianswhomakeart.com. There's also the Facebook group. There's also a Discord channel. Um, we've also got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. and Threads. I know this whole
Hey,
Twitter and Threads war
all the
happening right.
socials.
Yep, all
Well,
the socials.
I'll tell you what, Jaron, if you send me links to all those, I'll be sure to include those in the show notes and get them out there.
All right. Yeah.
And so that would be great. Any other projects, any other things that you want to, chat about and things coming up?
Let's see. I think that pretty much.
It covers it.
Yeah.
Is there, you said do you plan on doing like either online or some sort of meetup or how do you foresee like people engaging with each other in the group?
Yeah. So we have the Facebook and the Discord where a lot of the dialogue happens between people, and that, and just trying to get out to more events and things, and actually, meet people at the different events.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great, Jaron. I want to thank you for being on the show, man. This has been blessed. Will you come back? I hope you will.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it again, and I'll put a link to some of your music too. I know people would love to hear it.
Cool.
So, what does your shirt say? Sorry,
This is
is that one of your merch shirts?
Yeah. It's
Oh, there you go. It is.
So yeah, we got
Love it.
some merch on the website too.
Cool. Right on. Well, Jaron, thank you again, man. We'll do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right.
You are listening to And If Love Remains.
First of 23 installments requested by Dr. Levitt. Trying to be in compliance here because we're taking him and that whole organization down.